could miss the advertising, which depicted nicely dressed holidaymakers, small children holding multicoloured beach balls aloft, mothers in headscarves and fathers in hats, all with happy cartoon question marks over their heads as they approach the blue-suited beauties. Whatever you want to know, wherever you want to go, inquire of a Brighton Belle. Incidentally, it had taken a small committee of men in suits around 2 hours to come up with that slogan. It was the grammar that worried them. Did you inquire of, or inquire from? Opinion was divided equally, and there was an awkward impasse until the young clerk employed to take the minutes piped up unexpectedly that he couldn't listen to this any longer, and that inquire from was technically illiterate, so at last they had their answer. But the members of the committee were not embarrassed. They were pleased to have undertaken such a lengthy deliberation in the public interest. At this time in Brighton's iffy town planning history, when great swathes of venerable Regency architecture were being demolished on a say-so to oblige the interests of dodgy developers, it was important that other matters municipal should appear to be above board. Anyway, the slogan worked. Whatever they wanted to know, and wherever they wanted to go, holidaymakers did inquire of a Brighton Belle. The whole scheme was a massive success. People asked the Belles everything they could think of: the quickest way to the station, how many pebbles were on the beach, which horse to back in the 3:45 at Doncaster, where was the nearest place to spend a penny, how to tell the difference between heat rash and smallpox, and, most frequently, what time they got off work and did they favour a baby sham, the genuine champagne Perry. It wasn't easy to become a Brighton Belle. The prerequisites eliminated 99% of the female population at a stroke. You had to be tall, shapely, and fair of face, with excellent posture. Also, well-spoken, courteous, blind to class difference, and fluent in at least 3 foreign languages. You must be helpful and kind, and a total pro at brushing off sexual advances without causing offence. Basically, you had to be Grace Kelly, only without the recent romantic attachment to a member of the House of Grimaldi, because you also had to be single. And sometimes you didn't even wait to be inquired of. "Good morning, madam. I see you've written some postcards," said one of the Brighton Belles now, stopping to speak to a slightly startled pensioner, seated in a blue and white striped deck chair. "I can post those for you if you like." The pensioner, a Mrs. Tucker from Bow in East London, wearing a warm coat with fur collar despite the temperature, instinctively gripped her postcards tightly. She couldn't imagine why this uniformed glamour puss with the cut-glass accent was bending over her with white-gloved hand outstretched. "Mavis?" she said, uncertainly. "What's happening? What's she want?" "She's offering to post them, mum," explained the buxom red-haired woman in yellow gingham, sitting beside her. In this woman's hand was an open paperback book with a drawing of a Regency buck on the cover. She'd chosen it randomly from the stall beside the Palace Pier, and the edges of its pages were browned and crisp from being displayed for weeks in the sun. "I expect posting other people's cards is her job, poor thing," she said, looking up at the 2 Belles. "Is it your job, dearie?" she asked sympathetically. "Well, yes," said the Belle, whose name on a little gold lapel badge was given as Phyllis. "It's part of my job anyway. I could also direct you to the pavilion in Italian if you wished. My colleague Adelaide here could point you to the public library in Serbo-Croat." Phyllis smiled and continued to hold out her hand, but the old Cockney woman refused to surrender her postcards. This was the trouble with dealing with the public, Phyllis was beginning to realise. They never quite followed the script. You imagined they would be thrilled when someone who sounded like a lady-in-waiting offered them menial services. Instead, you got awkward scenes like this. "Let the poor girl do her job then, mum," sighed the gingham woman, wresting the postcards from her mother and checking they had stamps on. She handed them over quite grandly. "There you are, dear, with our compliments, and I hope you won't mind my saying it, but I do hope you get a proper job soon." Luckily for Phyllis, the woman's attention was then caught elsewhere. "Charlie!" she shrieked with laughter at a passing child. "Bloody hell, you're so red now, you're blue!" On such a bright day, it was a shame to find yourself inside a gloomy, airless wax museum, but such was young Constable Twitten's fate this morning. The great Inspector Steine, famous as a wireless personality and star of the Brighton Constabulary, had last week received an invitation from the historic Maison du Wax in Russell Place, begging